Hey, this is Jimmy Jive. You're listening to Motor City Rock Talk. Today, I have a thrash metal band out of Lansing, Michigan, a very good thrash metal band. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Megadeth, Metallica, kind of in that vein, maybe a little bit more progressive than that. The band is called Tyrant, and to date, they've got one EP called Black Hand that came out in 2016, a full-length album called The Pack that came out in 2018, and their most recent called The Lowest Level that came out in 2022. And today I'll be speaking to the lead vocalist, lead guitarist, Mr. Phillip Winters. Hey, Phillip, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Jimmy?
I'm doing great, man. All right, let's start with a little background. Tell me a little bit about where you're from originally, like where you grew up, and what some of the music, the bands or the artists that may have influenced you growing up and getting you into play guitar.
Yeah, so I've been in Lansing my whole life, where I grew up, various outskirts of Lansing. But yeah, when I was really young, Dad introduced my brother and I, the drummer, to Kiss. I remember very specifically, he had a Psycho Circus tape, cassette.
Yeah.
We listened to that so much. And that was kind of like a defining moment in our musical taste. My brother and I kind of realized that we wanted to try making music. And, naturally, you go from Kiss to heavier bands, into a lot of glam bands like Poison, Cinderella, and then we went to Pantera and Lamb of God.
Mm-hmm.
And, naturally just got heavier from there.
Now, out of all those bands, was there a specific guitarist that stands out in your mind that really helped form the way you wanted to play or your style?
I guess the guitarist, I think more importantly, songwriter that really influenced me would be number one, Dave Mustaine of Megadeth, because I really appreciated his approach to the guitar and the way he thinks about guitar and songwriting.
Right.
But another one, and I know this might sound kind of like a weird one, but is Steve Howe from the band Yes.
Oh, I love Yes, yeah. I can see both those in your playing, probably a little bit more of Dave Mustaine.
Yeah.
Was Metallica in the mix also? Was that another band?
Metallica, but I'm a bit of a Megadeth fanboy.
Yeah.
Like, Metallica's great, but I think Megadeth's just a little better.
I agree. I just mentioned Metallica because being that Mustaine, was originally in Metallica and, started out in that direction. Anyway, all right, let's talk about the band specifically. Tyrant.
Sure.
When did the band officially, get together? How did you guys form? I know your brother plays drums, but how did you get the band together and start the band?
Yes, I mean, with my brother playing drums and me playing guitar, we obviously just kind of jammed, played songs pretty much our whole life. And then at one point, when we were in high school, we decided to just form the band and come up with the name. We had a few members early on, and then we knew Chuck, our lead guitar player, through other bands in Michigan. He was in a couple other prog metal bands. And then our bass player, Salvador, he's based in Georgia, and he actually reached out to us. Just kind of worked.
That's really cool. Now, when you say you guys started out in high school, were you going by that name at the time, or did you start out as another band doing covers? When did you start really as Tyrant and really start writing original material?
Yeah, that was in high school. We, my brother and I decided on the name because it just felt appropriate for what we wanted to do musically. Surprisingly, we looked up the copyright for the name and nobody had it. And so we copyrighted it when we were in high school. And so we've just kind of been using that name since we were teenagers. I
noticed that you guys have done some extensive touring in the United States. Who are some of the bands that you guys have opened for or, started out with?
We've opened for a number of really cool bands that have kind of been some of my favorite bands. We've opened for Havoc a bunch. Every time they come to Michigan, we pretty much play with them. Really love that band. We opened for Diamond Head one time at the Token Lounge in Detroit,
wow,
which was really cool. And it was so bizarre because Diamond Head is this legendary band, but I think it being a Tuesday or Wednesday night, the draw wasn't that great, but it was, it was amazing to share the stage with those legends. And I guess a less conventional pairing, we opened for Deicide at Harpo's, maybe 6-7 years ago, I think.
How was that? Deicide is real hardcore, from what I understand. I've never seen them, but did you guys go over pretty well with their crowd?
Yeah, a lot better than we expected. You know, 'cause Deicide they have a lot of satanic lyrics and imagery, and, you know, they're very death metal. But yeah, I mean, people seem to really enjoy it. And I think that's the thing with metal is a lot of metalheads, they just like good metal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you'd mentioned playing with Diamond Head at the Token Lounge and opening up for Deicide at Harpo's. Do you guys play much then still in the Detroit metro area? I mean, the Token Lounge, hell, that's in my backyard. That's less than a mile from where I'm at. And obviously been to Harpo's many, many times. Are there other bars in the Detroit area, or clubs, I should say, that you guys play frequently, or the outlining areas?
Yeah, as far as, you know, obviously with us being based in Lansing, it's a little difficult to find a really great venue here, which is surprising because it's the capital city. But whenever we typically frequent Grand Rapids and Detroit, and we've got a couple spots that we really like in both cities. But as far as Detroit, I really like the Sanctuary, which I think they just got a new building or moved or something.
Yeah, that's correct.
And then there's another one called Small's Bar, who we've played at Small's Bar a bunch. And I really like, everybody there is so nice and professional and knows what they're doing, you know?
Right. Now, what about some of the bigger clubs? Like, you're familiar with like State Theater or St. Andrews? Have you played either of those places?
No, not yet. I think the biggest place we've played in Detroit would be Harpo's, which I think is like 1,200 people, maybe.
Yeah, it's a big club.
Something like that.
That's cool. So as far as, like you said, starting this out in high school, and you're playing and not having a lot of places to play in the Lansing area, which kind of surprised me a little bit being in, you know, a college town. Were there no places for you to play? Were you playing, you know, high school dances, or not dances, but high school gigs? Where would you been playing, like when you were in high school?
So Lansing actually used to have a couple really great venues here. One of them being the Loft, my favorite. It was a nice little mid-sized venue. But, you know, when COVID hit, we lost like the majority of the small to mid-sized venues. And now there's like one or two left, you know? So, I mean, there's a couple places to play in Lansing, but it's pretty scarce ever since COVID.
Right. I imagine it would be. Do you do any college gigs of any kind, like out of state? Is there anything to do out there as far as that?
Like Michigan State?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's I have friends that work at, there's like, I guess you could call them like clubs. They're not so much traditional music venues, you know. They do a lot of like DJ and dance night stuff, and occasionally they'll throw a cover band there. But yeah, I mean, there's a handful of places on campus.
Okay. As far, you mentioned covers. Do you guys cover anything as far as cover songs?
We used to, obviously when we were younger, we used to throw in a couple covers when we were playing live. And recently, kind of been toying with the idea of maybe recording a couple covers, you know, to just for fun, you know.
Sure. And as far as let's get into the albums. We'll start with the EP that called Black Hand that came out in 2016. Where exactly did you record that EP?
We recorded that with a friend it was called The Fledge. And so it was just like this little, I guess you could call it like a DIY recording studio.
Yeah.
Yeah, we worked with, his name's Matt Waterman at the Fledge, and he did really well, I thought, for those 4 songs.
Yeah, it's really good. Now, was that officially released in any way? I know it was an EP. Did you put it out on CD? Was it available as a physical copy?
Yeah, we did CDs. We obviously haven't pressed CDs for that in a long time because, you know, the 2 albums and then now this new album has been our main focus.
Do you have a new album that you're working on now?
Oh, yeah, it's done. And we've got 1 music video shot, and we're shooting 2 more in, I think, like a week or 2.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Now, the other 2 albums I mentioned, The Pact, that came out in 2018, and The Lowest Level, were they recorded at the same studio, or did you go somewhere else to do those?
So for The Pact, we recorded that at a studio here in Lansing called Elm Street Recordings, which is now, I think, closed because the owner, he exists in like live AV, so he runs sound for like Formula One and stuff.
Oh, okay.
And he just, you know, that makes a lot more money than recording bands. And then for The Lowest Level, we actually engineered and recorded that ourselves. And then Alex Paladin, he mixed and mastered that.
Wow. And how long typically did it take you to record the 2 albums in the EP? When you went in, you have the songs written, you go in, and I know it's expensive in studios, whether you're doing it yourself for time or whatever. How long did it typically take you to record the albums?
The Pact was a bit quicker because, again, we're fighting against the clock and budget. So I think we recorded that one in maybe like 2 or 3 months. But the lowest level, I think we spent 10 months on it. And, obviously, since we were doing it ourselves, we kind of took the time to rework parts. And, a lot of it was written during COVID. So we had the extra, we weren't playing shows, so we had the extra time to just kind of rewrite the lyrics, mess with song structure and all that stuff. And then this newest album, we started in May of last year, and it was done by, I think, December. So that the most recent one was a lot quicker.
Is that out yet?
It's not.
And when would that be coming out?
If I had to, obviously I can't put a date on it just yet, but probably within the next 3 or 4 months.
So definitely this year.
Yes.
Okay. And I noticed the videos. I saw a couple of videos. One of them, obviously, songs from the latest album of Ash.
Mm-hmm.
Who came up with the concept of that video?
Silence,
Who wrote that and directed it?
So we actually did that video ourselves. Obviously, it's green screen because it's kind of fantastical,
Yeah,
but
great.
we recorded it and we edited footage ourselves. And the song is about the revelations and rivers turning red and asteroids hitting the earth and all that stuff. So we figured, with such a far-fetched concept, we'd kind of take the same route with the video.
Well, it's an excellent video. It's excellent video, especially being, like you say, self-produced like that. As far as these songs that you write for these albums, especially the latest one, are they certain subjects that you like to tune in specifically on? Is it stuff out of the news, or is it just stuff that you guys come up with?
So my brother and I, we write all the lyrics. Typically, I'll write the bulk of them, and, he'll come in and massage them and make them. He comes up with one-liners that essentially bring all the lyrics together. But as far as subject matter, it's kind of whatever is existing in my world at the time, whether it be interactions I've had with people, or I do a lot of reading. So some of the concepts on the lowest level are inspired by literature, such as like The Greater and Lesser Keys of Solomon with I Master. Yeah, and a lot of it too is just feeling and emotion, because why else write music if not to get emotions out of you, and almost like a catharsis.
Sure, that makes total sense. I just didn't know if, based on the name of the band and the titles of these albums, if you guys were trying to go for a specific theme as far as your music.
Yeah, I mean, nothing is we're not that methodical and well thought out. We just kind of write whatever seems cool to us.
That's very cool, because the song's extremely well written. Obviously very tight. Your bass player is incredible. I saw one of the videos you have on your YouTube page is a video of him playing bass to one of the songs.
Yeah.
Incredible bassist. You say he was from Georgia? How did he discover you guys and to reach out to you originally?
So the bass player we had for him was kind of just a temporary fill-in to do tours. And so it was never really like a permanent thing. And, when we stopped touring during COVID, I guess, we kind of determined we needed to find someone that wants to stick around and be a bit more involved. So we kind of put out some feelers on the internet. We actually put up some ads on Craigslist, and he reached out. We interviewed probably 20, 30 bass players. He's so talented, and, he definitely fits in with the group.
Now, is he on all the recordings? Has he been there since the band recording days?
No, him and Chuck joined shortly before the lowest level.
Who was playing bass on the pack?
That was Corey McLean. He was actually a guitar player. Again, we knew him. He exists in the Detroit metal scene, and we just kind of said, hey, do you want to play bass? And he said, sure. But then obviously, life happens and other aspirations come up.
So you were touring, obviously, before COVID. Now, when you say touring, are you saying locally touring, or were you going out of state? Where specifically were you touring?
So I guess before COVID, we were touring pretty much everywhere. On the Pact album release tour, we went pretty much all up and down the East Coast, and a few other places. And then on the lowest level, on the lowest level tour cycle, we pretty much went everywhere except a handful of states on the West Coast.
Wow.
We went to Texas and New Mexico, Louisiana, Florida, all over the East Coast, all of the Midwest. So we definitely want to try and hit the West Coast first on this new touring cycle for the new album.
Now, were you headlining any of these gigs, or were you opening up for like semi or national act?
A lot of these we were headlining. We were promoting a new album, and we were supposed to do a tour with Toxic a couple summers ago, and really excited about that one. But their guitar player, Josh, he had like major hand surgery and just couldn't commit. Obviously he's the guitar player, so he couldn't commit to the tour. So we definitely want to try and get some decent support tours for the next album.
Now, playing up and down the East Coast, and you said you went out west. Had you played California then?
No, not yet. We haven't played California, Oregon, Utah, and Nevada. I think pretty much everywhere else played, I think.
Okay, well, that's cool. And as far as the East Coast, we talking like New York down to Florida, that kind of thing, Indiana?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, these shows you're doing, especially the ones that you would be headlining on, which you said you pretty much were doing. Were they just in clubs or, smaller bars on the way down? Or how did that work out?
Yeah, so a lot of the times, they were smaller venues, 200 or 300 cap rooms. Obviously, we're not a big enough band yet to headline 1,000 cap room. So we decided to go smaller venues because, ultimately that means more money in our pocket and less expenses.
Right.
And, nobody wants to go to a show and have 150, 180 people in a 1,000 cap room, because then it just feels weird.
Yeah. As far as these tours that you did, do you have management that handles that for you, or is it done within the band?
So I do all of the tour booking. I contact all the venues. I negotiate our deals and all of that stuff. And then my brother, he's really keen on finding local bands in each area. So he'll sit there for hours just like listening to all these local bands and, get them on the bill. So it's almost, networking in a way to kind of establish relationships with other bands in these cities, just kind of build a show that way.
Yeah, no, that's really good because then build these relationships, like you say, and then possibly if they want to come into the Michigan area, Detroit metro area, you can hook up some gigs with them here too to help promote them. That's really exciting stuff. Now, in any of this touring that you've done, up down the East Coast, out west, or whatever, did you record any of your shows, whether it be video or audio board recordings?
I think we did a live, we ripped it from the board one time, but I don't know what happened to that. We've got a couple videos up on our YouTube, one from our most recent tour, I think last year. When we were playing in Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah, I did see that.
We put up a video of us playing through Pray for the Night.
Yeah, that's the one I saw. The reason I ask you about, live recording and all that is, do bands typically, especially of your style, do live recordings anymore? Is that a thing?
Like live albums?
Yeah, live albums, live CDs, that kind of thing.
Every once in a great while, I'll see a band that's similar in style do a live album. But yeah, I mean, also, I guess with the style of music that we play, the album is already kind of live, because it's a little bit more raw than some of the other recordings you might hear from different genres. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I feel like live albums aren't really a thing much anymore. And I say that as a fan of Kiss Alive. Right. I love that album.
Yeah, I know Megadeth put out a few too. That's why I was wondering all that. Usually they correlate them with, obviously a concert video, which is the ultimate thing. But as far as that, when you were doing these tours, were you selling your albums, the CDs at your shows?
We've got CD, vinyl, and cassette for the albums that, we promote on tour.
Wow, cassette and vinyl. Wow.
Yeah, I'm a huge vinyl guy.
Yeah, me too.
Vinyl's really popular. Metal like this because I think metalheads really enjoy full album, even though the algorithm and most listeners prefer a single, or have the attention span for a single. Yeah. A lot of metalheads really enjoy full albums and like having physical media. The cassettes were cool, but they weren't as popular as the vinyl.
Right. Well, the other thing about vinyl that's really cool is you're pretty much forced to listen to it in the order that the artist intended.
Yeah, it's very hard to skip.
Yeah, you put the record on and you play through side A and you play through side B. As far as that and that thinking with you guys putting out, vinyl, is that played into the way the songs are, put on the album as far as like,
Absolutely.
Okay, this flows?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of, again, I grew up, my brother and I, we grew up listening to full albums front to back, and I'm a huge prog fan, like prog rock, and a lot of that, the way they order the songs on the album is very deliberate, whether it's going from one key to another or a tempo, another tempo or a lyrical concept. So, we try to be pretty, when it comes to putting song orders on albums, try to make it make sense, So that way when you're listening to the album, it flows really well. Yeah. But also, if you listen to each song, individually, it still stands on its own.
Absolutely. Now, as far as these albums, these CDs, have you gotten any airplay anywhere as far as, college or internet radio?
Yeah, we get a bunch of airplay with every new album cycle. With the first album we did, that charted pretty well on, what is it, the NACC, the college radio chart?
Mm-hmm.
I think charted at like number 8 for the first week. And then it was also on, I think it's called like Heavy Metal Contraband. We were number 2 or 3. So yeah, I mean, the last album got international radio play, and we got all these radio reports that are cool to look at, but I don't really understand it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. Have you tried, I mean, there again, this is another thing that I think is pretty much passe, and we've started been interested in this. Has any of your music, these albums or anything you've done, been in any way promoted to any record companies? I know the big ones don't bother much with anything anymore, but some of the independent metal labels out there, have you scouted any of that out or have interest in doing that?
Yeah, we worked with a record label on the last album, and I'm not trying to sound dour, but it didn't really move the needle for us. So we thought about, with this new album we've got done, we thought about whether or not we want to work with a label, because we've got friends, bands who are on Metal Blade Records, and, they're the same thing, it doesn't really change anything other than it looks cool, And obviously, that's more hands in the cookie jar. And, obviously we work really hard for what we do, and we want to, be rewarded for that.
I just wondered, I know most of it is like you say, it looks cool. And like you can say, oh, wow, we're a Metal Blade, Roadrunner, or whatever. As far as distribution, so they're not helping, the labels are not helping out as much as they used to as far as that?
Yeah, I mean, that's just the way the industry is. If you compare labels of today to the way they were in the 70s and 80s, it's totally different.
Yeah.
Now, record labels back then, they used to give artists $40,000 to make an album.
Right. Yeah, but you had to pay that back by touring.
Yeah, and now you have to pay the label, and then once they've recouped their money, you get money back. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you got this new album coming out. You say you've already done a video for it. Is that correct? Did you say you were working in or had done a video?
Yeah, the video is done. We're filming, the video for the first single is done. Mm-hmm. And then we're filming 2 more singles or 2 more videos in like a week or 2.
Wow. Self-produced like the last one?
Yeah.
That's really cool. Now, as far as self-produced, do you have somebody that works with you as far as filming it and choreographing it, or do you do it all yourself?
We just do it all ourselves. My brother is really into video editing, so he does a lot of the video editing because, he just really enjoys it. Plus, with stuff like this, it allows us more freedom to kind of represent the music the way we want it to.
Right.
So, yeah, we film it all ourselves. Obviously, with like full band shots, we need some help because we can't film each other.
Right. And it's not done on a phone, right?
The newest one we did actually was filmed on a Samsung S25, only because camera quality is better than the camera quality in that phone is better than the DSLR camera we have.
Isn't that crazy?
It's insane.
That phones, you're not only walking around with a little computer in your hand, but you're walking around with a film camera because, people have made movies with their phones. Yeah. I mean, high production movies and stuff as far as that. I guess it's a sign of the times.
Yeah, I mean, it was our guitar player's phone. Obviously he's very about technology, so he always has the newest phone. And again, the Galaxy S25 or whatever it is, but it shoots in 8K, like 120 frames per second, which again that's insane.
It is. It's totally insane. Okay, the last thing I'll ask you about here is you obviously have this new album coming out. You got some videos for it coming out later on this year. Have you got anything lined up as far as gigs or touring for it yet?
Not yet, but we're hoping to hit the road, maybe a couple months after it comes out. So realistically, we'll announce tour dates for end of summer, maybe early fall.
And will you be playing anywhere here in the Metro Detroit area? Like you mentioned, the Token. Like I said, that's literally a half mile from my house. I'd love to see you guys in that bar. I don't know how long ago you said that you played there with King Diamond, but any chance you might be coming down here or playing anywhere in the Metro Detroit area? Is that anything possible?
Yeah, I mean, we play Michigan every time we do a tour. Try not to play Michigan too often, because nobody wants to go see the same show. Right. So we do 1 or 2 Michigan plays a year. And yeah, definitely Detroit, definitely Grand Rapids. Like I said, with the new album, we're hoping to get to the West Coast and cross that off the list.
For sure. Getting to the Whiskey A Go-Go, some of those vintage classic clubs. You got to get that done for prosperity, I imagine.
Yeah.
All right, Phillip. Well, it's been great talking to you, man. I
Likewise.
I love the music of the band.
Awesome. Thanks, Jimmy. I appreciate it.
You bet, man. And you have a good night.
You as well, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, brother. Take care.
See ya.
Bye-bye. Well, that was Phillip Winters, guitarist and vocalist for thrash metal band Tyrant. Really good. Like I say, he mentioned David Mustaine, and that was the first thing I kind of thought about when I heard them was Megadeth. Crunchy, thrashy sound. Very creative. They've got a really good mix between the players. Bass player is incredible. His brother, the drummer, they're all really good players. They're really top notch as far as that. They played all over the East Coast, not West. They haven't got to California yet, but I'm sure that's, like he said, that's on their bucket list. Got a new album coming out later this year that'll be on Spotify, I'm sure, and all the other streaming services, and some new videos that should be out on their YouTube page, which you can check out and see. They've already got some stuff on there already. Self-produced videos that, like I say, the technology for this stuff just blows my mind that people can self-produce this kind of stuff. Especially, like he said, doing some of this stuff on these phones. It just blows my mind. And like I mentioned, they have an EP called Black Hand that came out in 2016. 2 full-length albums, The Pack, which came out in 2018, and The Lowest Level that came out in 2022. Check them out. They're, like I say, on all the streaming services, and they're also on their YouTube page. If you're a fan of thrash metal or metal of any kind, you really need to check these guys out. They're really, really good. Hey, is that old stereo system of yours still giving you the blues? Maybe the receiver has a blown channel, or the turntable just doesn't work right. Well, then you should visit my friends at 7 Grand Audio Service. They've been in business for over 40 years. Located at 25642 7 Mile Road in Redford, the owner Dash and his assistant Harry can fix just about anything. It doesn't matter if it's vintage gear or newer gear or whatever, they can fix it. I'm talking about receivers, tape decks, turntables, EQs, power amps, and yes, they work on guitar and bass amps. The phone number over there is 313-533-3635. They're open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. For any of your audio needs of any kind, you need to really check them out. And tell them Jimmy sent you. Anyway, with all that being said, as I always like to say, keep rocking.